Hello everyone. In this video, I will show you how to create a very flexible work schedule in Excel, where you can select work shifts for employees from a drop-down list, and the total number of hours worked will be calculated automatically. Enjoy watching. So, let's get started. First, I will create a table with the initial data for the work schedule. It's most convenient to place it on a separate sheet, and that's exactly what I will do. To avoid confusion later on, I will immediately enter a title for this sheet. Now, in the column, I will list all the possible work shifts available in my department. The other shifts will be listed in the same format. In this list, I will also indicate days off, sick days, and vacation days. I will do this in a shortened format, where DO stands for day off, VAC for vacation, and SL for sick leave. Also, please note that I have set the standard font to Calibri size 11. This is important because I will set the column width and row height for the work schedule table according to this font. Alright, now I need to fill in one more column, but before I do that, I will double-click the border between the columns to adjust the width of the first column to its content. In the second column, I will specify the number of working hours for each shift. In my company, employees are given 1 hour for lunch, so the number of working hours should reflect this break. Therefore, for the first row, instead of 9 hours, I will write 8, as 1 hour is spent on lunch. Occasionally, on the busiest days, the manager schedules a shift of 10 working hours. So I've included that in the initial data as well. These data can be edited and added with new shifts later, and I will show you how to do that a bit later. Now, we need to transform all this into a table. I will select one of the filled cells and press the key combination Ctrl plus A. Then I will press Ctrl plus T. In the dialog box, I will leave everything unchanged and click OK. In the Table Design tab, I will assign a name to this table. In the name, I will use an underscore between words since spaces are not allowed here. Great! Now let's move on to creating the work schedule. It will be located on a separate sheet. I will name it March since this schedule is for the month of March. In March, there are 31 days. I will now autofill the cells from the 1st to the 31st. I will click on cell B6 and enter 1, as I want to start filling in the numbers for the month from this cell, but you can choose another cell as long as you leave some space at the top for the header and on the left for the column with employee names. In the Home tab, I will click on the Fill icon and select Series from the drop-down menu. In the Stop Value field, I will enter the number 31 and click OK. The numbers will be filled in automatically. I want all data in the cells to be centered, so I will click on the triangle in the upper left corner of the sheet and then set the alignment to center. I also need to enable text wrapping within the cells to prevent the content from spilling over to adjacent cells. For this, I will press Ctrl plus 1. In the Alignment tab, I will check the Wrap Text checkbox. Additionally, I need to specify the appropriate column width. I hover the cursor over any column and right-click. Then I go to the width settings. Here, I set it to 10 and click OK. Now, I will perform autofill for the days of the week. March 1st will be Saturday. I will write it in abbreviated form and perform autofill by dragging the small cross in the bottom right corner of the cell. Alright, the first column will contain a list of employees. I will select the top two cells and merge them. I'll increase the column width a little so that the names and surnames of the employees fit. I will enter the appropriate title for the column. Just below, I will list the employees. I will speed up the video a bit to avoid wasting your time. Note that I left blank rows between the employees, as they will contain the working hours. The final row of the table will show the number of workers for each day. In the far right column, the total number of hours worked will be counted. To make the chart more visually understandable, I will add borders. To do this, I will select it and choose the All Borders command from the toolbar. I will visually highlight the top part of the table using fill. I will highlight Saturday and Sunday separately. Here, each person can decide how to do it. I will show you a useful trick on autofilling the fill. Look, I select exactly 1 week and stretch the fill to the last day of the month. Alright, now I will specify the header and color codes for the weekends and so on. Moving on. It's time to create a drop-down list for selecting work shifts. I will click on the cell where the shift for the first employee should be specified, which in my case is the cell with address B8. Then, in the Data tab, I need to click on the Data Validation icon. In this field, I will choose List. Below, I will write a small formula that will use the INDIRECT function. Basically, I need to refer to the table with the source data. I remind you that a name has been assigned to this table, and it needs to be specified as an argument in the function. Since the name is text, it should be put in quotes. It's also very important to select the column from which the list will be formed. In my table, the work shifts are listed in the first column, so in square brackets, I will write column 1. I make sure to finish entering the text with quotes and place a closing parenthesis. I click OK. Now, when I click on this cell, a special arrow appears next to it, which opens the list of work shifts. Alright, I will assign the shifts a bit later, but for now, let's focus on setting up the automatic calculation of working hours. 3 popular functions in Microsoft Excel will help me with this. I will write the formula in full now and then explain its essence to you. So, the formula is ready. My task is not only to display the working hours but also to avoid responses in the form of errors or zeros. For the correct functioning of this table, the result should either show the number of hours or the cell should remain empty. This is why, using the if and VLOOKUP functions, I've instructed the program to find in the source data table the number of hours corresponding to the specified employee's work shift. Therefore, if this number is 0, according to the next function argument in the form of empty quotes, the cell should also remain empty. Otherwise, the VLOOKUP function should provide the answer with the number of working hours. And finally, if an error occurs during the calculation, thanks to the if error function, the cell should remain empty. Friends, I understand that this formula may raise questions and difficulties. You can simply use this formula without delving into the details, and it will work just as well for you as it does for me. The main thing is to ensure that you have set the correct address for the lookup value. For example, in my case, it's cell B8, as it will contain the information about the work shift when I select it from this list. I'm not doing this right now because I first need to properly align the row heights and column widths to display the information correctly in the cells. Also, be sure to specify the name of your source data table in the formula, as it will provide the information about the number of working hours for each shift. But, if you get confused, just follow exactly what I do, and you won't have any problems with the formula. For those who wish to understand Excel formulas once and for all, I recommend watching my special tutorial video dedicated to the topic of calculations. It's available on my channel, so keep that in mind. So, at this point, I have a cell with a list and a cell with the formula. Both cells pertain to a single employee. Now, I can scale this list and formula to the entire work schedule using regular copying. Great, as you can see, every employee now has a list and a formula. But before starting to fill out the schedule, I will specify a formula for calculating the total number of hours for each employee. In the last column, it's necessary to merge the cells. I enter an equal sign and type the if function. Sum will be the first argument. Then, I select two rows related to the first employee. I enter an equal sign and set it to 0. In the next argument, I put empty quotes. In the last argument, I introduced the sum function again with the same contents. The essence of this formula can be outlined as follows. I instruct the program to check the condition from the first argument, and if it's true, I want to see an empty cell. And conversely, if the condition is not met, the cell should display the summation result of the working hours. So, I press the Enter key and copy the formula for the other employees. The last cell isn't needed, so I'll remove its borders. Regarding the calculation of the total number of employees per day, a similar formula will be used, with minor changes. Instead of the sum function, I will use count. And as the counting range, I will select the data from the corresponding column. I will write the same in the last argument. Press the Enter key and copy the formula. Now I will change the row height so that the work shifts can fit entirely into the cells. In this case, the number 35 will be the most appropriate value. I remind you that I set the height and width parameters considering the font Calibri size 11. If you use a different font, then other parameters might be more suitable for the cells. I'll hide the empty rows with formulas to make the schedule look better. To do this, I select them while holding the Control key. Then I right-click and choose the Hide command. Now we can proceed to filling out the schedule. All the formulas I recently entered here are working correctly, and thus the number of employees is calculated automatically. The same goes for the number of working hours, they are simply summed. You can even unhide the rows and see how the working hours for each employee are displayed. However, I prefer to keep them hidden. In my opinion, this makes the schedule look much better. Regarding vacation, sick leaves, and days off, it would be nice to highlight them in different colors, according to the guide provided just below. The tool called Conditional Formatting will help me with this. So, I select the area of the schedule that needs to be filled out. Then from the drop-down list, I choose the New Rule command. See, now I'm creating a rule where all the cells I've selected containing the text DO meaning a day off will automatically turn green. As you can see, this is done quite easily. Similarly, I will create conditional formatting for sick days and vacation days. All the rules created can be viewed in the Manage Rules menu. And if necessary, the rules can be edited and deleted. But I won't do that since everything is set up correctly. This can easily be confirmed. As you see, the colors fill the cells according to the specified rules. Sometimes instead of using the list, it's more convenient to perform copying. For example, now I'll just copy the day off into the adjacent cells. I can also copy an entire week. And if the schedule repeats throughout the month, then regular copying will help here as well. However, if shifts change often, it's more convenient to select them from the list. For vacations, it's also better to use copying again. That's how I can create a work schedule in just 10 minutes. So, my work schedule is ready, but I want to explain a few more important nuances to you. Sometimes it happens that the manager has to assign non-standard work shifts, for instance, if an employee finishes their workday a few hours earlier for some reason. In such cases, you have two ways to solve the problem. The first method involves editing the shift manually. Suppose this employee requested to leave 2 hours early on March 4th due to important family circumstances. In this case, I will select the cell and go to the data validation parameters. In the window that appears, I will choose the Clear All command. From this moment on, the drop-down list is absent for the selected cell, and it can be edited manually. It's important to remember to adjust the number of working hours accordingly. As you can see, this is quite straightforward. The second method is suitable when you want to add new work shifts to the schedule that periodically repeat. In such cases, manual editing would take more time, so I recommend going to the table with the original data and adding an additional row. As you might have guessed, this new shift needs to be entered there, and it will then appear in the list. Let's check. So, the new shift has been successfully added to the list, and the working hours are automatically set thanks to the formula. This way, you can easily add non-standard shifts to your work schedule. Moving on. If your schedule table is too large, the freeze panes feature can help. To set it up correctly, you need to select the cell from which the freeze should end. In my case, it's the cell with the address B8, and I want to freeze the columns that are to the left of it. The same goes for the rows above it. To do this, I will go to the View tab and select the Freeze Panes command. Excellent. After this, working with the schedule will become much more convenient. And one more important point. How about creating a schedule for the next month while spending minimal time? I'll simply copy this sheet. Now I'll rename it and edit the table. April has 1 day less, so I will delete the extra column. Similarly, you can add new columns without any problems. The same applies to rows. That's it, now you can easily assign shifts for the next month. Or prepare the document as a template for the whole year. If you want to keep the schedule empty for a while, make sure to save the formulas and lists in it. You can simply copy them back into the empty cells after deleting the schedule, just like I showed you at the beginning of this video. Then you can start filling out the work schedule for the next month from scratch. So, this video is coming to an end. If you found the material presented useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And for a more in-depth study of Microsoft Office programs, I recommend subscribing to my channel, where you'll find a wealth of interesting video tutorials. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.